Welcome to Dad's Next Project.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dad's Next Project, a podcast. Today I have with me author and coach Nigel Smart. He is the author of Bouncing Back from Divorce with Vitality and Purpose, a strategy for dads. And then he also has a coaching program, which is...
Yeah, we're coaching guys in how to build a better life, basically. Especially having coming out of divorce, I've focused on that area. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, talk a little bit more about what you're doing now. So you mentioned to me a little bit ago in our pre-conversations. You have two girls.
I have two girls and I have four boys.
Four boys.
Okay. Children altogether.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think I was busy.
Yeah, I've just got the two girls for now. I couldn't imagine having four boys on top of that.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, and through the divorce has been a challenge as well. So, but Sunday was a soccer game for my youngest, who's 14, and we take it one step at a time. I try to work things out with their mother, and that's where we go. Yeah.
All right. So you wrote the book. It's been published, what, 2-3 years now? 2 years?
The ebook came out about 2 years ago. The print book came out in the summer of 21, so it's about 18 months. And we're just waiting for the audiobook to come out. As I mentioned in our preamble, we've had that recorded by a California-based English actor, and I'm really happy about that. It really sounds great. It's something that even I could listen to in a car, which was what I was hoping. People, as I talk to dads that are going through things, they'll say, have you got something I can read quick, or have you got something that we got to record in? Have you got a podcast? You've got things that I can listen to? And I said, yeah, I've got this recording coming out. So that's what people are asking for. And so we're trying to give them what they want, and give them things to be able to structure how they're going to deal with these things. I mean, these things come out of the blue. My own divorce came out of the blue, really took me by surprise. My best friend, as I told you in the preamble, really shocked me. But it's how you respond and how you recover from that. And that was something that as I mentioned, I've been coached by some great coaches over the years, including Robbins and another guy called John Assaraf from The Secret. And they've been my coaches. And I've got dossiers of stuff that I've learned over the years and I've implemented. And I just said to myself, hey, Nigel, what are we going to do now? We're not going to go in the corner and have a pity party. I have my days that are down like anybody does, but I limit those to very, very few. And, I've got a lot of tools and things in my toolbox that enable me to pull myself out of that. And that's what we've been doing for other guys, basically. And that's how I got into a lot of the things that we're doing now, Dan. Folks said to me, hey, Nigel, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? And, my often spoken message is, they said, well, you could have gone down like the Titanic. You got hit below the waterline with a whole bunch of torpedoes.
Yeah.
We watched you and we said, well, there's another good guy gone, that's it. Not my style. I grew up in a tough town, a little mining town back in England. I've lived here in the States now for 30 odd years, American citizen now, very happy here in Pennsylvania. And I said, no, this is not good enough. I'm not gonna cave in. There's so much life to do. And so I just put together a lot of things, and I built a process that worked. A lot of it was trial and error. Some of the things I knew would worked. Other things I thought would work didn't work properly. And I put things together into a sequence that was effective at starting you off in the day, getting you the right mentality, bringing up your energy level, And then the other tools of focusing what it is you really want out of life in each of the sort of things that we have in our life, whether it's our families, our health, our finances, our job, our careers. I love life again. I didn't want to be on my own. I wanted a stable relationship. I thought that was important. And so I addressed each one of those things, Dan. And I built this thing that worked. And folks started saying to me, can you help me? I want to do what you do. Help me with this. And so, I started helping people on Facebook, and then other people said, you can do more with this. And one thing led to another until I met a publisher. I was publishing another book at the time, and this publisher said, tell me about your story. It was in the midst of COVID, and I was just doing a refresher thing on one of my coaches who has a refresher challenge. And I met this publisher, and she said, you've got to tell your story because you're being selfish if you don't do that. And I said, what the heck do you mean you're being selfish? And she put it this way. She said, when I wrote my book, I lost my son. And so I wrote my book, and then people of how I dealt with that. And I said, yeah, I can see that. But what do you mean you're being selfish? And she said to me, well, because of the fact that I wrote my book, women started phoning me up saying, can you help me? Or your book's been a big help, helping me get over the fact that I've lost a kid. And she said, the same thing's going to happen to you, because there are guys out there who are depressed, who are on drugs, who are self-medicating with alcohol, who are killing themselves. So you need to share what you know. And Dan, that really resonated with me. And I thought, oh my God, what should how can I turn my back on that? And so I said, okay, let's put something down. And I built some concepts. I took some of the tools that I had put together, and I put together what is, a short read self-help book. It's about 25,000 words. You can read it in a couple of hours, and it's got a whole bunch of tools in there that help you get going. I say it's a starter project because you can't put everything in that sort of thing, because nobody would read it. You'd end up with War and Peace, and nobody's going to read that. They start off with a good intent, but they'd never get anywhere with it. So I took advice from her, and she said, do it in this way. And so I put that together, and we published it and hit #1 bestseller on Amazon very, very quickly. And after that, I started to formalize, the last couple of years, I started to formalize the coaching business around that. And then speaking on top, I've been asked to speak at a number of things, different engagements. I've been on a number of podcasts, a bit like yours here. Yours is different, but focusing on things that with parenting and that type of thing. And it's really blossomed from there. And as it blossoms, it's fun. And you really feel like, well, you're doing something worthwhile and you're giving back. And it's something that I'm really quite proud of. Now there are other things in the works, speaking, another book in the works, going deeper, building different types of courses to do with relationships. I think I mentioned that, I did get remarried last summer. I'm really happy right now with Eddie, my wife. And, we started another little business called Relationships and Lifestyles. And we're actually, she's from a Latin background. And so we're looking at things from different sides, my Anglo-Saxon background coming from Europe, and her Latin background from South America. And we're looking at things in terms of what can we do now to help families lead a more interesting, more fulfilling life. And I think that's what we're trying to look at, fulfillment, and how can we have some sort of an impact in that area.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys are doing that. I feel that the family dynamic in especially America, and then that's obviously where my experience is, but probably throughout the world, that it's not what it used to be. We're so driven by work and what we see as our responsibilities, and that we don't actually take the time to just enjoy being that family. So
I agree with you.
I think it's great that you're heading down that road, and that's a lot about what we're trying to do here at Dad's Next Project is get people like you know, and expose it to just whoever, right? You know, someone may resonate with my last guest, someone's going to resonate with you more so than someone else, and it's just, you know, getting those tidbits to show that, you know, you're not the only one that's kid only eats chicken nuggets and cheese. You're not the only one who, you know, can't get their kid to sleep in their own bed. You're not the only one who has relationship problems and there's tension with you know, the spouse and that sort of thing with the differences from, you know, parenting backgrounds and all of that. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I think it's great that you're heading that direction with you know, now that you've moved on from your divorce period, and now you've found love again, and you're rebuilding, and you're doing great there. So now you can show that there is more, right?
And I think it's important to even though you've moved on, you know, and in my case, I've started again in a major way. You have to recognize and you have to point out to people that life is real. You know, it's not a Hollywood movie; it's real. And am I really happy? Absolutely. I couldn't be happier now in my life. But do I have problems? Of course I do. It's a real world. And I put my socks on one time, one at a time, just the same as everybody else. You know, I do my routine in the morning, kind of just the same as other people. I mean, we're no different. And I don't care who you are, but you have to go through those things. But it's really down to, you know, what's in here and how do you approach things now? And I approach things differently. And what I want to share with people is, especially, you know, dads. I mean, the focus of your podcast is dads and coping and how do you do, is I'd like to offer a few clues to people. I'd like to show people, look, you know, we've been through this, or we continue to do with this. You know, trying to parent kind of not at long distance, but as a you know, working your way around visitation rights and a certain amount of custody, you know, which was difficult for me. There was never any issues with the children. There was no violence or alcoholism or anything. But I traveled, you know, I traveled internationally. And so they put a lot of restrictions on me about how much time I could have overnights and stuff. And it's been really, really tough. And so, you know, you have to be creative of how you deal with those things, Dan. And, you know, folks that I talk to, people can connect with me through you. And I'm more than happy to share. Look, you know, there's only so many things you can do within a certain block of time and the restrictions you have on. But I'm not above, you know, love to help people and say, okay, give me your situation, and, you know, let's try and design a blueprint for you that works for you. I mean, there's some general principles that we're going to use throughout, but you have to be flexible enough to get something that works, because we are living in interesting times, in difficult times, you know, both politically, economically, etc. There's a lot of dynamics that are going on around the world which create instability in our families. You know, we see their stuff on the news every night that probably, you know, is a little bit nervy. But we still have to get up in the morning. You have to put the kids on the bus to school, or we take them to school, or we're picking them up, or they've got doctor's appointments. And you've got your career or your business, and you've got to juggle those things. And it's, how do you reconcile how you deal with those things individually and come up with a plan that works, and that it works, and that you also have a relationship between you and your partner. The thing that I found over the years is the children should be the thing that welds you together, but very often it's the thing that forces you apart. And it shouldn't be that way. And there is another way. And you just need to get creative. But first of all, I think you have to recognize that first. You have to recognize that and be honest with yourself and say, hey, you know, these little guys that are our treasure, we need to set things up in such a way that we still have a life and we're still close together so that we can be the best parents for these guys and not make them like objects where it becomes a chore and we're running around here, there, and everywhere.
Yep.
So that we've lost communication between the two of us, because that is the glue that holds everything together. And if you, I think if you break that, and sadly, I think that broke in my case. I recognize it now, and it was never going to happen again. In fact, the thing I put a lot of effort into, and it's kind of, some people may say, well, you're being wise after the event. No, but there is wisdom there. At least you recognize the situation, which most people don't.
Yep.
With the children's stepmother, they have a great relationship. In fact, it blows me in mind, because some days I say, hey, they're coming to see you, not dad. Because, you know, she doesn't have children of her own, but she makes things work and helps them see dad in a different way. And I think that's important. You know, I think, you know, naturally we had this hunter-gatherer type of responsibility thing. You know, we may be modern guys, but I think underneath we've still got that sense of responsibility that we want to fix everything, that we want to provide everything. And yeah, you know, in modern families, we're all contributing, but we still have that thing underneath. And I think guys really can feel devalued if we don't find a way to be able to pull the best out of a relationship and make that work. But I still think it's very important that the couple retain that bond, because it's a demonstration to the children, to the kids, of how they need to grow up. You know, you mentioned earlier on, I think, that the nuclear family type of thing is disintegrating, and I think that's something that we need to protect. You know,
absolutely.
Whether it's a boy and a girl, or two girls, or two guys, or whatever the mix is today, it's confusing for everybody, let alone children. But I think that stable unit is really, really important, and we need to sort of think about how we want to work on that as we raise these little guys.
Yeah, because we're setting the example for the children to how they should expect to be treated, how you treat your significant other, you know, how you treat other people, how you treat your kids. You know, like there's more to it than just I've got these kids and I, you know, need to feed them and make them work. If the relationship dynamic between you and your significant other isn't there, they're going to feed off of that, and we could be setting them up for failure in the future if they don't realize that what we're doing isn't the right way to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the thing that we don't realize is it's not easy being a parent.
Nope.
And I think, you know, maybe, you know, I think back about how the way I was raised, and it looked pretty easy. And, you know, it's taken me a long time to fully understand some of the things that maybe I didn't do that well. But you know, I think the important thing is that you develop that kind of wisdom, as I call it, that wisdom of experience. And you can read all the books and things that you want. You can try and take all this advice from these psychologists, etc. But I think, you know, it comes down at the end of the day that if you give them enough attention, enough love, and communicate with them, I think, or I like to think that the children underneath just want to like their mum and dad, or, you know, their parents. I think they want to like you, and I think it's difficult to nurture that. It's difficult to nurture that The other thing that is difficult for parents, and I struggle with this. In fact, I just said this at the weekend. I said, when I have 14-year-old twins, a girl and a boy. My daughter has some problems that were brought on by COVID, which are difficult to deal with. She's had a lot of trips back and forth to the hospital through things that have been caused, difficulties that she has that's keeping her out of school. She's having to be homeschooled. It's difficult when you've got a mix even of one gender, say boys or girls. When you've got them both, again, it's different. Sometimes it can be fun, and sometimes it's really difficult because at the weekend, a couple of weeks ago, my daughter didn't come, for example. So I said, well, this is going to be straightforward. We go outside, we kick around and stuff, and they've got your attention. I said, come on, we're going to work on one of the cars in the garage. So I took him in the garage and we threaded a piece of rubber through the windshield on the Austin Healey. We talked about that in the break. And he had and I said, wow, I've been wanting to do this for 3 months. Thanks a lot, son. And he said, no, Dad. He said, this was great. So I thought, oh, really great. Now he's a petrol head. He loves to watch the Grand Prix. Okay. I didn't do that. I mean, he's watched them with me, but I didn't say, hey, watch the Grand Prix with me. It's touched a nerve. He likes it. Yep. But when his sister was here at the weekend, it was like, I said, come on, let's go and kick a ball out because you've got a soccer match tomorrow morning. It was difficult because now, what are you doing with the other one while she's doing that? Because she can't run around too much at the moment because of medical restrictions. Fortunately, she managed to do a puzzle, jigsaw puzzle on the kitchen table here with Eddie, her stepmother. So that was okay. But if you're the only one around, very, very difficult. How do you keep both of them going? The other week, I took to one of these iFly things. So, do you want to go like, what do they call it? Skydiving in a tube?
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool, but you can't do that every day of the week. You can't do those sort of things. It's how do you engage them as individuals, and how do you engage them in a group? It's very difficult. You have to get real creative.
We're already, so my girls are 4.5 and 6 months.
Right.
So the 6-month-old is getting to the point to where she kind of realizes, she can demand the attention. Right. She can kind of move towards things she wants and just in general needs more of that, right? Because she's changing diapers and feeding and she needs more attention just because she can't fall off the couch. That can be detrimental for her size. And then my 4.5-year-old is she's seeing us, either my wife or I. We try not to do it at the same time. Giving the attention to the little one.
Right.
And then, so she starts acting out or doing things that she knows will get her attention, good, bad, or indifferent. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're trying to find that thing where, one of us is usually giving attention to one of the kids at any given time when we're together. But when it's just, one of the parents and the two kids, even at this age, they're already got their own personalities. They have different needs, and I can already see that when they're teenagers, they're going to be entirely different, right? So
and you're already beginning to experience that sibling rivalry as well.
Oh yeah, and
you can see that
they are both daddy's girls. They're both daddy's girls. Like when I walk in the home, then into the house after coming home from the office, both of them, even the little ones, just like and then she starts throwing a fit, and then the 4-year-old's running to me, and then it's just constant, like, who's gonna get dad's attention first already? And
I went through that both ways. The younger one sort of ignored us a lot, but she liked dressing up. I always used to get her dresses for Halloween. The other one, she was the first girl. She's going to be 18 in July, and we were always best friends, and she's moved through that age. She's had some health problems with the COVID thing as well. They both girls, interestingly, have been hit by the same thing. That some things that are reported, medically, that happened with the COVID. And she's difficult now to, she's a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think dad's kind of passe, I mean, it's like, and it's very difficult because, you have to see this young lady now as like anybody else that you would see outside, but she's still your kid. She's still that little girl. I used to call her my Buddha. We got this picture of her, or the black background. It looks like she's floating in a silky thing when she was 1 year old with a bald head, Yeah. And I called her my Buddha, and she's precious to me. But she's a no nonsense person. I'm going to be a school teacher. I'm going to do this. She's got her own opinions, and you cannot joke around like you used to at the moment. And the thing I've learned is they do go through phases.
Yeah.
But you can't generalize that, oh, now they're 14, they're going to be this way. Because again, depending upon, I'm going to say, depending on what week it is, all of them, like up and down like a yo-yo. I mean, the boy has just gone through his first girlfriend thing, and she dumped him at the weekend. Oh my God. That was another experience, I expect it with the girls, but I don't expect it with the boy, and it's just really strange, Dan. These things don't care how successful you are. In fact, the more successful you are in your business or your profession, for example, that usually puts a squeeze on time, which makes it even more difficult for you to be that great creative dad that is, seemingly walking on water type of thing. It doesn't happen. And I think the biggest thing for guys to understand is, if you are a caring person, which I think most of us are, it's going to get to you. I mean, I have moments where it's, I feel Eddie will say to me, "What's wrong?" I say, "Well, I'm upset about this." But the important thing is, what can you do to flip the switch? And moving your body, moving exercise, doing something. I like to go, as I explained to you, I like to work on the old cars. Mm-hmm. I use my brain a lot for things that I do work-wise, profession, etc., and business. Going in the garage and getting my welding gear out and welding something up on the car, or sanding, with the bodywork on the car, or working on something mechanical to actually put something back together. I find that very therapeutic, especially playing some music in the background. Put the thing on in the background, and you get rocking around. The dogs will come and maybe and hang out in your garage with you. I find that very therapeutic. These are some of the things, the little tricks and things that you can play with yourself to get yourself rebooted again. I think guys need to, hopefully some of the guys that are listening to this will realize that what I'm advocating is get used to putting things in place to enable yourself, just like a computer. It's, we all have these issues. It's like, this program won't work, or something won't work. So what do? We shoot it down, we reboot, we click in again, and the thing works perfectly. I think you've got to do that to yourself. You got to study yourself a bit and find little things that will enable you to reboot yourself. Because remember, when you're feeling crappy, you're still interacting with everybody else. And if you're not the best you, then you're influencing how they feel now and how they react to you, and things spiral out of control. And this is how you can get, depending on how your partner is, etc. I mean, in my previous relationship, this would go on for weeks, and you couldn't make any new ground. So I think it's really important for dads to recognize and kind of understand themselves a little bit. Go explore, find things that work for you, that can cause you to reboot yourself. So then you can approach something with a clear head again and say, all right, now we're gonna take care of doing something around the house, or doing something an exercise with one or other of the kids, rather than getting stuck. I think we get stuck as guys, or nobody understands us. Have you heard that in your head? Nobody understands. Yeah. It's like, why won't they let me fix it? I get sick and tired of hearing, we just want you to listen to us. I mean, learn to do that. I think for us, it's very difficult for guys just to sit down and listen and hold attention and be interested. That's a learned experience, and it's very tough.
I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember seeing or listening to something where it was a couple, and they were, do you just want me to listen to you?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to fix the problem? Like, so we go into this. Am I just listening to what you have to say, or are we having this conversation because do you want me to help you fix the problem? Then you have the mindset, right? Because if you don't preload me, I'm going to try to fix it.
Yeah.
Right. If you come to me with something, if you're just venting, I'm going to try to, I'm wired. That's how I work. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see it. Okay, here's a problem. We can solve it. Right. So, you preload it with that man, I wish I could remember where I saw this, but do you just want me to listen, or do you want help solving the problem?
Yeah.
Before
for the time, the way I worked that is, it was like, the classic thing is we come home from work, and both of you have been out of work, you come home, or one person's been home, the other one comes home from work, and what's the first thing they do? Hey, how's your day going? Well, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And you don't realize that you're doing a massive download dump, and the other person isn't receptive. They're not receiving this, and all they hear is complain. Before you know it, you're caving the whole thing in.
Yep.
We went through in my previous marriage, we went through a period where we tried to kind of flag, like you're saying, preload, and that worked for a while, but then it became, kind of gimmicky, and that kind of burnt itself out, and then we spiraled back to where we were before, just like everybody else. I think you just got to get creative. I think as guys, and this is tough, I think each person on both sides of the relationship has to take responsibility for themselves. I think, the biggest thing I always try to teach guys that are going through these difficult periods is the only thing that you can control is yourself.
Yep.
The other person is either going to be reasonable or totally unreasonable. And we all know that each of us at times, even though we like to think we're reasonable, we're a pain in the ass. We are, each one of us, including myself. We have our moments. But I think it's that recognition, and if you're being honest with yourself, and having some tools that can snap you out of it. I mean, that's, I think, one of the nicest gifts that I've developed, or I've been given, or I've modified things that I've learned from other people, from some of the real masters mindset and behavior, is you've got to, I think, first of all, you've got to recognize the state that you're in, and then what am I in a mindset? Am I in a state, an energy state, or a state of my energy level? Can I handle a conversation like that? Can I handle that? And if not, I think it's okay to say, I can't do this right now. I know this is important, but you've got to walk away, because as much as the other person's demanding your time, if you're not in a state to receive that, it's only going to go one way. They're going to push your buttons or push you down, such that you'll go into a sort of mini depression, or it'll push you over the edge and you'll explode and you'll end up in an argument. So I think you've got to. The other thing along those lines, Dan, you've got to learn to say no, or no in a way that, hey, listen, I really want to hear this, but I need like 15 minutes. So try and negotiate. I'm going to listen to you. I really, really want to listen to you. But right now, I just need 15 minutes. And go lock yourself in the bathroom and take a magazine with you and go and just bring yourself down. So, okay, now I'm ready to do this. And it's very difficult to do that because if the kids are screaming, "Hey, I've been on my own all day," and I need you right now. And I get that, but it's only going to go one way, and you learn this through experience. And I think does it work every time? Does it work every time for me? Absolutely no, absolutely not. What we're trying to do here is, and I do this in my business and in my personal life and the coaching and things that I do, whether it's consulting or private coaching, is I work off an 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
And it's something that people can get their heads around. I say, look, I accept 20% failure, but no more. There was a line in that movie with Rush, where the race driver says, "I accept a 20% risk, no more." And the day he accepted more than 20% risk, he had the big car accident in Germany, and he got burned. And I try to approach life that way, and I say, if I can make 80% of my decisions that are positive, then hey, that's pretty damn good. And be easy on yourself and give yourself some credit. I think, and I include myself on this, Dan, I beat myself up, or I can beat myself up if I forget that. I think, Michael Jordan, one of the all-time basketball players, if you look at his stats, he missed more times, but yet he's the greatest player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to recognize that. Look, how many decisions are you taking in a day? Yep. And how many of those do you get kind of right? But what do? We beat ourselves up with a 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 or whatever that maybe aren't the greatest. And so I think it's really focusing on what are we getting right and how can we make that better? I'm a person that tries not to look on the negative, yes, it's important, how can we improve? But how can we improve on the positives? And I think if you can balloon those out to be 3 or 4 times whatever good decisions you're making, that diminishes the negativity of the few that you can't. And let's face it, there are some things that we just can't fix, even though we're fixers.
Right? Yeah. And then those are often the most frustrating things.
Yeah.
Because we don't give up on it. We put so much focus into a thing that we should just move on from.
Yes.
Because we want to fix it, and there's no fixing it.
But the thing I would say, to pick you up on that point, the thing I would say is, and another, it was a podcast I was listening to, or an interview I was listening to. The popular wisdom is, the only time we fail is when we give up. It's degrees of success. If we've moved the ball forward, so to speak, a few inches, then that's a mini success, a mini win. We don't see it as that. But I think if we change our mindset such that everything that we do is a mini win, and remember, everything's a process. Remember, life is a journey, and we're focused a lot of the time. We're all, myself included, we do focus on tangible endpoints that we measure ourselves on. But as my new wife says to me, Nigel, we've got to enjoy the process of getting there. 90% of it is the journey. And I don't think I've appreciated that as much in my life as I should, but I appreciate it now. And that's what the part of the message that I like to share. And that's why, I was really excited to come and meet you on your podcast today, that we can share that with your audience and tell guys, look, it's all right. Set yourself the targets, but if you don't meet them, it's okay, as long as you've made some progress towards that. So if you didn't make it on your calendar this week, then make it that it's going to take 2 weeks to do, or maybe put it to try and get that job done by the end of the month. Because when you actually complete things, as you know yourself, and we talked about this over the car thing over the weekend, when you complete things, there's such a great feeling of success. There's such a great feeling that rushes and washes over you. And we need to pick up on those emotions, because those emotions carry us through the difficulties that we've got in our life, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reference your specific example from earlier with the Austin Healey windshield, for anybody who doesn't know, doing any of the rubber on an Austin Healey windshield successfully and accurately is a huge win, especially with only two people.
Yeah, my son Dylan, 14 years old, I said, can you hold this and I'll thread it through? And we got part of the way across, Dad, and he said, it's coming out, Dad. And he looked at it and he said, why don't we turn this around and try it from the other side? I think we've got a better slip in from that side, because it's just slightly different. So I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a dollar type of thing. Why not? So we turned it around and I said, okay, you keep my fingers, you keep threading it through and I'll keep pulling it. I felt I was going to break my fingers, but we threaded it all the way through. We put a little bit of baby powder on to act as a lubricant, and it went in. And I was totally amazed, because for 3 months I've been wanting to do that. 3 months, more, maybe 4 or 5. And I've been putting that off because I knew it was going to be something that I didn't know whether we could get done or not. But the two of us, the extra pair of hands, and just looking at it from a slightly different point of view, but not giving up. We tried and we turned it around and we said, okay, let's try this. So again, it's another example of, set yourself a target and go for it. And that was a great bonding experience for me and the boy, because he turned around, I think I said earlier, he said, hey, this was fun, Dad. So I said, okay, when you're around next week, we'll try and put the windshield up, and then we'll see if we can put the top on, Now, yesterday, the weekend, he had the soccer match on both days, and one of them got cancelled. So we had to do something else with that time. But next time, we'll try and bolt the windshield on and see if we can get that top to fit. That's going to be the next challenge.
Yeah, and it will be.
But
that also leads into another perspective, right? You're going into this. You've done that before.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the rubber on a windshield with the cars you've got, and you went into it with someone who has a fresher perspective,
right?
A little bit of a different point of view, and between the two of you were able to work through it, which is another thing that us as dads, right? Like, I have my perspective of my problems, but with talking to people like you and some of my other guests, or all of my other guests, I'm getting other perspectives.
Right.
And I've only been doing this a short time at this point, but even just myself, I have learned just that little bit that I'm like, you know what? I've never been able to get myself around to look at it from that side or that point of view. And as dads and as guys in general, that is huge for us, because we're always just so set, we got to march along and do the thing. And sometimes we got to, take a step back and talk to our buddy, or, a coach or a mentor or whatever that looks like, and get perspective.
Yes.
And then
it's getting used to, again, I think we've been taught as we grow up as boys to be self-reliant. And I think that's a very, very good thing. But the negative is that it makes us very, very, the older we get, it makes us very reticent to ask for help. And that's a failing in my mind. I tell my boys, never, 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 never refuse help from anybody. I said, now what you do with the knowledge, what you do with what you get, but don't say, no, I don't need that. Because you never know the nugget that they're going to come out with that actually might just help. This idea of I want to do it my way, on my own, I don't need any help, is such a flawed way of doing it. My oldest boy, who's in his 30s now, he came out with that, and I just rolled my eyes. I thought, here we go again. The thing I learned is somebody might offer a help, and it may cause doors to be opened for you in whatever you're doing. But I said to him, ultimately, whether or not you're successful is going to be down to your personality and your technical capability and how you express that in the situation that you're in. I said, credit yourself with give yourself some credit, you know? And so I'm trying to open the door and say, look, let somebody open the door for you. Why not? It's life. Ultimately, whether or not you make use of that door being open is really down to you. So it's still down to you doing it, but let somebody open doors for you. And I think that this idea that we must do everything on our own is a flawed thing. And I just think it's something that, on the one hand, we've been taught through high school that we got to take responsibility for ourselves and things. I think that's really, really good. But it needs to be balanced by this openness to this inquiry, this curious thing, and say, I really think that you need to, I really think we should be open to say, hey, Dad, you know, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Or in our case, son, have you got a perspective on this, or what do you think on this? I mean, I ask the boys all the time, and say, what do you think about this? Do I take their advice? A lot of the time they don't know, but it's interesting to get that point of view because they do come up with, I have this saying that the more wingding, the more crazy an approach is. Actually, in my life, in my tech business, I found that actually some of the things which sound crazy and are crazy spawn the idea that actually comes up and is relevant as a solution piece at some point. So I think there's value in just sort of asking the question, and also it's pleasurable to do that because as you do that, you're sort of invisibly communicating to your child, or you know, to the young man, the young lady, you have my respect, and I think that that's a big thing for young people growing up. You know, one of the biggest arguments I had with boy number 3 was, you have to earn my respect. You don't have my respect. You're this, you're this, down the other. And I thought, oh God, yeah, here we go. A teenager, you know, I know I've got life experience. I've read a few books. I talk to people. And it's like, yeah, but I've got 30 years of real life experience on you. And I know how nasty and how great the world can be, you know. I think that wisdom, I think it is wisdom. That wisdom is something that we need to prize, and maybe we don't anymore. And I think that's because, you know, in days past, the only way that you accumulated knowledge was through experience and reading and that sort of thing. Today, the youth can accumulate the knowledge that took you a lifetime to acquire in weeks by going on the internet, because they can find everything that you've stored up in your database. The things when I did my theses at university, that, you know, we used to go to a card box and get references and then find the journals and read the thing and then make our notes. You know, you can find it in an afternoon now. It would have taken me 3 months. So everything is quicker. There's much more. There's access to information. The difference is whether or not they are learning how to use that information. And I think, you know, given that we've come from a slightly different generation, depending on your age, to the children that are coming through school now, is that maybe we've got a better perspective of what the process is, whereas they just have this information which is 10 times what we've ever had, but they actually don't know how to process or use that information. And so I think as parents, as we look at our guys, maybe that's a wisdom that we can share with them, because that's acquired knowledge over a time that we've kind of filtered and refined, just like a good wine, you know, or a good scotch or a bourbon or whatever. It's been in the wood for 12 years and it's had time to process, whereas theirs is just raw alcohol that's been like distilled yesterday. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that's a value maybe that's not immediately obvious, something that we can give as a more mature generation. And we have to temper how we react to the fact that these guys, they have a very, very short attention span because of the media that they're, you know, the media that they're, and the mediums that they're working with on social media.
Yeah, no, there's constant stimulation that, you know,
overstimulation.
Yes.
Overstimulation. And how we deal with that, that's something that is maybe a topic of another more in-depth conversation. It's a difficult one. It's one I struggle with because the kid's mother and I have different perspectives on that. I would like to limit time, but I've tried that here. Say, okay, phones are left on the bomb chest in the hallway for the next 6 hours, and it's like, oh my God, it's like you're asking somebody to go cold turkey, and they complain to their mother, oh, he's trying to stop me communicating with my friends. No, I'm just trying to save their brains from being totally fried by the garbage that's on TikTok, you know?
Yeah. It is. Oh man. Yeah. So you mentioned Tony Robbins earlier. I have kind of a two-part question in regards to the coaching and mentorship. One is, did you get into that before you know, you had your divorce and work through all of that, or is that something you've done after? And the importance of a coach mentorship, you know, listening to people like Tony's content, as far as, you know, using their example and their experiences in life and having that resource.
Yeah, I'll answer that the best way I could. I first met Tony in the late 90s, and I was doing a business deal at the time. It was my biggest deal at that time, and I negotiated something, and I'd started a company, and I was negotiating a lot of money with a pretty big company, and I couldn't get this thing to work. And one night I came down. It was the time of infomercials. And I was down here at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I put on the TV and I was channel surfing, and this guy caught my attention, and I sat there and probably listened to him for the next 2 hours on his infomercial and stuff. And I ended up buying a set of his tapes, and these tapes came. It was Personal Power 2, and I listened to these tapes, and they were brilliant. And I loved the things he was saying. I thought, oh my God, this guy thinks like I do. And this has happened a number of times over the years now with other guys that I've got involved with. What happened then was really quite remarkable. QVC Studios is here in Westchester, in PA, near Philly, where I live. And one day I get this call, says, "Oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm Tony Robbins' private PA. Tony's going to be at QVC Studios. Would you like to meet him in the audience?" So I said, sure. So they sent me an invite on email, and I went along one Saturday, and there he was, you know, big guy, you know, 6'5", massive teeth, huge head, big grin, and he's been interviewed for like 30 minutes. And they said, is there anybody that would like to ask a question, Tony, or can anybody give a testimonial? Is there anybody here in the audience that could give a perspective about how Tony's course has helped them? So I put my hand up, And I gave him a kind of a testimonial. I said, yeah, I listened to things, changed my mindset about how I was dealing with things. And wouldn't you know it, I closed the deal, and it was $1 million deal I closed. And this was like my biggest deal at the time. And it really launched a little drug company that I was trying to work out of one of the medical schools here in the Philly area. Well, at the end, when the recording stopped, this guy, I got up and like you would in a theater, and I started to walk out. Well, he chased after me, and next thing I knew was the hand on he's got massive hands, by the way, my hand on my shoulder, and says, hey, I want to talk to you, man, So we sat down, and he said, thanks a lot for the recommendation and everything. And he said, tell me your story. So I told him a story. And he said, I want you to be a guest of mine. Will you come? I'm doing an event soon. Come do a firewalk with me. I thought, are you kidding me? So I said, sure, I'll come. So long story short, this was late 90s. I went, I met him in Baltimore. He remembered me. We did a firewalk together. There was about 5,000 people there. And at the end of it, I ended up signing up and did a whole bunch of things with him. And over the years, I've done a lot more. But it really changed things. And that's the first part. But it's also led to the idea of, I really do believe that we need mentors. We need coaches in almost anything that we do, whether it's whether it's on fitness, for example, or if it's in terms of your business, or if it's in terms of your life coach type of thing. I suppose we're in that space now ourselves. And I've taken a lot of Tony's principles and also the people's, Dean Grazioli, John Assaraf. I've got about 6 or 7 coaches that I have myself, and I take pieces from them, and I build now courses and things for my clients. And these guys encourage you to do that, because the thing that they've said today is that we all need coaches, because the world has changed so much that we need to. There's so much crap spoken by our politicians. There are some people that want the state to take care of you from cradle to grave, and it ain't going to happen. And the only thing and I say this to everybody, you need to take responsibility for yourselves, because ain't nobody coming to save you. So you need to equip yourself with everything continuously. Just the same as you go to the gym, just the same as you might need a trainer to get you going and set things and hold you accountable. That's the big thing, Dan. We need people that are knowledgeable, like ourselves, like yourselves, like myself, to hold each other accountable. When I put my Austin Healings together, I have a whole group of friends and whatnot. They're all knowledgeable. I'm knowledgeable, and we share our expertise, and we coach or we help each other. And that's what we need to do, because it enriches society and it pulls us forward. So that's how I met him, and not only him, but several other people. They encouraged me to grow and to build things. Everybody isn't going to be, Tony's, I think he openly says he's probably coached 100 million people now, including lots of presidents and goodness knows who are other people. But he says, we need people like you, like myself, because there's 7 billion people, nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and there's not enough of us. So we need more people like ourselves that are empowered, which is why I'm focusing on doing the things that I'm doing in relationships and lifestyle. And I've got this, area with my wife on the Latin girls, and on myself with helping dads, because they're an under-serviced group. How do we coach maybe girls, our daughters, different than we do our sons? That all needs to be framed. And so that's really was my motivation, and that got me into a lifelong association with personal growth, personal success, personal continuous improvement. And this is, one of the things I do in my tech, in my other tech business is continuous improvement. And a lot of the principles that I share now in my relationship coaching, it's directly transferable from the things that I'm doing in the tech industry. We would look at your life now, for example, and what's the life you really want? Well, this is what you want. This is what you got. This is what you want. We look at 6 or 7 categories. We get really, really granular about the things that we want or how we would like to be. And then you ask the question, well, how do I go from A to B? And so now you need to plot a blueprint, or as I always joke about it, it's the yellow brick road to your Emerald City, to quote Ronald Reagan. How do you get there? Or other people say, how do you bridge that? And it's never a straight line. It's a bendy, wavy line. But we can build something because life is dynamic. Life is dynamic. There isn't a one size fits all. What's going to work for you is not going to work. Well, it is going to work for me, but it's going to be a slightly different shade of green. It's going to be a slightly different shade of red. Is it red or is it green? It's green, but I'm going to say it's lime green. You're going to say it's army green, and somebody else is going to say it's jade green. But it's green, but we're going to have to tailor that, just like you tailor a suit. You got the general principle. This is what the suit looks like, but then you're gonna customize it to your own personal needs. And I think that's one of the big gifts that I've been given, is that I never rest on my laurels. I'm always inquiring. I'm always saying, okay, this is great. How can we be better? How can I grow? Because I don't think that, or I do believe that if you're not growing, you're going backwards. And in a world that's changing so rapidly, we need to be constantly upgrading our skill sets. Just like this computer that I have in front of me that I'm talking to you on today has got 5 times the power of the one that I transformed from. I had a Hewlett Packard a few days ago. Now I'm on a Dell, and we had to transfer the stuff across because the software has been upgraded so much that some of the things I was doing we couldn't do anymore. And it's the same with ourselves. We need to upgrade our skills, and we also need to realize that just like our bodies, I'm a triple black belt in Taekwondo. I should be a master now, but during COVID, things got slowed down, and I've got a little bit of a nerve problem in my left leg right now, which is restricting me a bit. And so now I have to do physical therapy to get myself up so that I can upgrade my skill levels. And that's what I'm talking about. Is there are some things that are going to change that I can't do that now. So I need to find an alternate way to get myself to the same endpoint that is a goal or an objective that I'm going to. And that's going to happen. I had an idea that, this is what we're going to do with our girls. Well, they got sick, that something happened. So, okay, now I've got to morph how I do things. I've got to change that plan. The blueprint's kind of the same, but how we get to that endpoint is different. And so we've got to be flexible. I believe that you've got to have a blueprint, but you've got to have inbuilt flexibility so that you can respond to the changing environment. And I think that's a gift that I would give to anybody. And I would say, come and talk to us. Come and talk to me. I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by people's stories. And I would say, what can we do to help you achieve your best you? What are the things that are important to you? Let's build a program out, and let's see if we can do that. I hope that answers your questions on that. I don't know if I did a complete job on that for you.
You did great. You did great. That'll work perfectly. And then, so where can people find you? Website, social media. Where are you found in the world today?
You can, if you just plug in Nigel Smart on Google, I'll pop up everywhere. But the company that we started to do all this it's just www.bouncingbackwithnigel.com. relationshipsandlifestyles.com. So relationships and lifestyles. That's all one word, all lowercase. You can find Nigel on Instagram, where I talk about cars a lot. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on WhatsApp, but you'll find me on Facebook really easily. You'll find me on Instagram. My email that I put for this is bouncingbackwithnigel@gmail.com. bouncingbackwithnigel@gmail.com. All one word, all lowercase. I picked that just for fun. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I like to be playful, as I hope you realize. I like to do things, and I like to have fun with this stuff. You know, a lot of the things that we talked about can be really heavy types of subjects, but I think we just need to lighten up. I think if we can make fun out of it, if we can make it interesting, then it's not dry. I think the problem with a lot of people, they go to therapy and they have a lot of academic theory and stuff. What we're talking about is practical experience. We're talking about life experience. We're talking about, we're well read. We understand all this stuff. A lot of it we've been through ourselves. And so it's learn from our, I hate to say this, I don't mean to sound pretentious, but learn from our wisdom and bring your wisdom, and let's share it together, and let's build some things. I'm open to all new ideas and views. And I beg, steal, and borrow from everybody that I learn from. That's the name of the game. You know, we're listening to so many different people with different experiences, and you know, one of the things I like to do, which is what you're doing with me right now, is I like to talk and listen to people and ask questions and learn from their experiences, and then incorporate those things into things that we might be able to teach other people, so that we can again get them to be their best them. And I think that's so important, and it's fun. It can be real fun and enrich your lives. And you know, people say to me, why do you do some of these crazy things? Why do you jump out of planes? Why do you go scuba diving? Why do you drive that old 60-year-old race car? And I say, try it.
Yeah.
Try it. You know?
There are some things you won't understand unless you just do it.
You know, I'm two things. It's interesting. Years ago, somebody asked, you know, that worked for me in a corporation that I worked for. I said, you know, what are the things that Nigel makes him, you know, talk, and he'll talk all day? And this person said, oh, there's two things. Easy. It's old cars, the Austin Healey, and it's two old English sheepdogs. I have two old English sheepdogs that are 10 and a half years old now. They'll be 11 on Christmas Day. And, you know, they're two of the most precious things that I have. I just love taking them for a walk. They're big, floppy, crazy, silly girls that I got from Virginia. And I've had them for 9.5 years now. And enjoy, you know, one of the things that Eddie has taught me in the last year or so since we've been together is enjoy today. She says, you're all about tomorrow. You're all about, you know, you're always planning. You're always doing, Nigel. Can we just enjoy the present? And she's right. It's been difficult for me to learn to be, but trying to get that balance between the present, learning from the past, and planning for a better future. It's what I'm about, you know, and it's something that makes me happy. And when I see somebody that has gone through difficulties and they turn around and say, you know, I can't believe the changes that you have helped me build into my life, that is just such a wonderful thing to experience. You can't buy that sort of stuff. You can't buy people being honest and saying to you, hey, you know, I don't know if I could have done this. Or one guy said to me, I don't know if this sounds melodramatic, but I don't mean it to be. He said, I don't know if I'd still be alive if we hadn't done some of the things that we'd done, because I was an alcoholic and I was spiraling down, you know. So set goals, Be positive. Never give up. One of the things about people say to me, what do you love most about living in the United States? And I say, it can be a dog awful day today, but tomorrow we'll wake up and give it a fresh try and we'll fix everything. And I really think that is, part of the American character, which I'm proud to be part of today. And I think that's just a great way to live your life, to get up and give the day a chance, at least for 5 minutes. And if after 5 minutes it's not responding, kick the crap out of it. As one of the guys on the radio station here it says every morning at 9 o'clock when he logs off, he says, have a great day, Philadelphia, and take no crap from anybody.
That's no crap from anybody in the city of love.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I always think that's brotherly love. Yeah,
brotherly love. There it is.
Home of the cheeseburger. Not the cheeseburger. The cheesesteak.
Cheesesteak. Yeah. So there's a couple places here that have some pretty delicious cheesesteaks, but I still think Philly has them hands down. There's just something about having a Philly cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's true. When you go to a place that's known for something, it's part of the tradition. It's part of visiting those places, and experiencing the dish of wherever you are.
Right. What's one of the downsides to living in Arizona is there's no real dish that's here. It's everybody has brought their dish here, so you can find whatever you're looking for almost. But it's not like, oh, Arizona is known for, hey, we're just known for being hot.
Phoenix, the first time I came to Phoenix was about 30 years ago, and it's changed so much.
Oh yeah, we have grown ridiculously.
I didn't recognize the place, but I can't wait to get out there again, and certainly one of my goals is to finally meet is to go to the Barrett Jackson thing at Scottsdale. So maybe next January.
Yeah, let's just plan for it. We'll just
okay, man.
We'll just plan January. Me and you, Barrett Jackson.
Yeah,
do it. So all right, Nigel, this has been great conversation. I've got my kind of episode ender that I'll leave us with, and we'll call it from there. But so, Nigel, what does Dad's Next Project mean to you?
Yeah, it means building bridges for access, conversation, relationship building. That's when I think of Dad's Next Project. It's how can we build that closeness between father and son? How can we influence in a positive way without being domineering? How can we excite our children? How can we get imaginative, and how can we inspire them to realize their inner potential in a positive way? I think that there are too many distractions at the moment, but we need to be authentic. I think we need to, as I think of Dad's Next Project, what authentic ways can I involve myself with them that's going to bring me closer to them? Hopefully they see value in me as a dad. That's been a big one, Dan, I can tell you. As they go through their teenage years into early 20s, they can be very, very dismissive of us as parents. One of the seminal moments that I had, and I share this, and this is a true story. My oldest boy is in his 30s now. He's a scientist himself. He's got a PhD in molecular biology. He works on stem cells and stuff. Very bright guy. I love him to death. And a few years back, I think it was in his late 20s, I was passing through London. I'd been out in Asia, and I stopped off in London, got off the plane, ran into London, where he works and lives today. And we caught a couple of pints in a pub, and we had fish and chips, and we had a chat. And he turned to me and said, "Hey, Dad, there's something I want to say to you." And I said, "Yeah, okay, son, thought this sounds a bit heavy." And he said to me, "Dad, everything, I can say this to you now, everything that you ever told me, you were correct about everything." And my reaction was, I was stunned, obviously, and a little watery-eyed. I had a lump in my throat. And I just turned to him and said, "No, I wasn't, son. I just had a hell of a lot more life experience than you. But thank you for recognizing that. And if you've learned a few things from your dad, then maybe I didn't do my job as bad as I thought I had." And I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, thank you, Nigel. Lots of knowledge in today's episode.
Hello, welcome to Dad's Next Project.